Do we need an honor culture? Hi, I'm Mike Mason. This is the Immortal Combat Podcast. The Immortal Combat Podcast is the podcast arm of Very Christie. Very Christie is a Catholic lay apostolate devoted to help men attain the full stature of Christ by growing strong in mind, body, and spirit. If you'd like to learn more about our work, you can check us out online at verychristie.com and stjoesociety.org. All right, gentlemen, this is part two, picking up from the reflection I had for you last Friday. Now, last Friday, or pardon me, the reflection I have for you is on Romans chapter 12, verses 9 through 10. Okay. And to remind y'all, this is what Romans 12 says: Let love be genuine, hate what is evil, hold fast to what is good, love one another with brotherly affection, and outdo one another in showing honor. All right. Last week, we talked about the fact that we should not be nice. Okay. I talked about Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, which is perfectly fine program for young children, but okay, it can send a message that being a serious Christian, okay, so when we view Christianity as Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, it makes it think that being nice is what Christianity is about. Okay, so I talked a little bit last week about removing hurdles to faith. Um, Men don't want to be nice. We don't want to be pushovers or doormats or things like that. And I discussed last week that being nice isn't even something you should aspire to. Okay. What's it mean to be nice? To be nice is to be pleasant or agreeable. Now, as I discussed last week, it's okay to be pleasant and agreeable in certain contexts. Okay. So I'm not, that's sort of obviously true, right? So I wouldn't say anything so absurd that being pleasant or agreeable doesn't have some merits to it. Okay. But the idea that we're supposed to be pleasant and agreeable all the time, false, right? Jesus Christ was not and is not nice. Now, was Jesus compassionate? Of course. Is he empathetic? Yes. Is he merciful? Absolutely. Could he be pleasant? I'm sure. He was always accused of being at parties and stuff. Well, he must have been a pretty pleasant person to be around, or he wouldn't have been invited to those places. Okay. Being nice, though, is a distortion of Christian virtue, and it can be a sin depending on the consequences. Sometimes we should not be pleasant or agreeable depending on the circumstances. So when my children do things they're not supposed to do and they get caught, they don't find me to be very pleasant or agreeable. Though at other times I am. Depends on it. And so the Christian application we talked about last week is that what St. Paul says in this passage: hate what is evil and hold fast to what is good. Okay. So we want to hate evil. We don't want to be pleasant or agreeable about evil and sin, but we want to be steadfast in goodness. Okay. That's what I challenged with you guys last week. This week, I want to talk about the second part of that verse, verse 10, where it says, Love one another with brotherly affection and outdo one another in showing honor. Okay. First, outdo one another in brotherly affection. Here at the St. Joseph Society and at Very Christie, we think men need to be in small, cohesive groups under a hierarchy, under some leadership to grow in holiness against a common enemy, namely the world, the flesh, and the devil, so that we can become the men God created us to be. All right. We need one another. Okay. We need brothers. So we're supposed to love one another with brotherly affection. Now, this wouldn't be a sappy sort of love. Okay. Certainly not a romantic type of love, but it's love of willing the good of the beloved, right? So your brother in your group, you're doing what you can to help him become the man he wants to be, and vice versa. Okay. Second part here, we need to outdo one another in showing honor. Now, honor and shame are not talked about in contemporary culture anymore. Okay. In fact, honor cultures are kind of, we play those down. I don't know about you guys, when you grow up and when people talk about honor cultures, we're constantly fed the bad side of those things, so where guys try to protect their honor because some guy gives them a minor insult. So they go out and have a duel with guns and kill somebody over it. Okay. That's a little bit absurd. All right. So there's people will be quick to point out that honor cultures can have a bad side. All right. So say, well, we don't want those honor cultures. And then shame in our contemporary society is also poo-pooed. Okay. There are people that do the utterly most shameful things. And everybody says, well, you shouldn't feel shame over that, as if shame's a bad thing. No, if you do something shameful, you should be ashamed of it. Okay. And we should shame other people when they do those sort of things. And so I don't like the tendency in our culture to downplay honor and shame. These are good qualities. Of course, these can be done in bad ways. Of course. Again, I'm not denying that for a second. Okay. But we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. All right. You will hear people in our society, you'll hear guys say stuff like, maybe guys my age don't say this, but young guys do, look out for number one. You hear pro athletes talk about, you got to look out for number one. Okay, I remember a long while back, I don't know if young people say this anymore, but they'll say, you be you, right? Or people tell you, you shouldn't care about what other people think. False. Looking out for number one, you be you, don't care what other people think. This is false. Okay. When I taught high school, I used to tell the guys, you don't need to care what everyone thinks about you. Some people's opinion is irrelevant and you shouldn't listen to it because they're fools. There are some people in your life that what they think of you matters. And that's what I want to talk about today. Okay. Remember hearing a podcast, and I've read articles about ancient Roman culture. Okay. The Romans were intensely interested in honor. There's also honor cultures can also be found on football teams and in the military and things like that as well. But the Romans were very interested in this. But honor for them was not some individualistic sense of pride. You be you, bro. Look out for number one. Okay. No. For the Romans, honor culture was inextricably tied to group identity. Okay. The Romans were a people that lived according to a code. Okay. They had standards to live up to. So Roman honor culture was with group identity, which means you're in a group of guys. We have a standard. If you don't live up to it, that is shameful. If you do, we'll give you honor. Okay, Cicero once said, ability without honor is useless. Okay, so just because you're able to do something, but you're not living up to it, okay, living up to the standard the community has, useless. I think we need to recapture honor in our parishes and in our St. Joe Society groups and Very Christi groups. Guys, we have a code of honor. That is our rule of life. We meet twice a month for our Very Christi groups, once a month for the St. Joe Society. Maybe you guys meet more often outside of these groups. We need to be at those meetings. It matters if you're fulfilling the rule or not. It just does. It is shameful to commit yourself to something and not live up to it. Okay. And guys, I'm not piling on y'all. I've said this in the past. I'll say it again. Anything I say on this podcast, it's because I need to hear it. Okay. So I need this reminder as much as y'all do. Okay. We need to live up to our standards. We need to rise up to the men around us. If you are surrounded by men that are better than you, thank God for it. I have many friends, close friends that are way better than me. Okay. What that does is that positive peer pressure forces me to get better. We need to reclaim honor and we need to reclaim shame. When we do shameful things and when other people do, that needs to send us to our knees. That needs to send us to the confessional booth. And so I want to encourage you guys in your own minds, in your St. Joe Society group, your Very Christian group, with your close group of friends, start cultivating honor and shame. And the way you do it is simple. You don't need to be preachy to people. You live up to the standards you've committed yourself to. Men, those of you guys who are fathers and husbands, set a standard in your family. Okay. So my last name's Mason. Okay. Train my children. We Masons are about something. It matters how we act. Okay. What we do and don't do matters as Masons. We have a standard as a family. Guys, we are Catholics. Live up to that great name of being Catholic. We are God's people. Okay. We are a part of the mystical body of Christ. We need to live up to this name Christian, this name Catholic, in the last name. Okay. So I want to encourage you guys with that. Foster that in your families, foster it in your friendships, foster it in your parish. Let's have some good positive peer pressure to help us grow in holiness. All right. Okay. That's all I have for you this week, fellas. I hope you guys have an awesome weekend. Okay. Romans 12, 9 through 10. Hate what is evil, hold fast to what is good, outdo one another in showing honor. All right. God bless you, fellas. See you next time.